Hello there! In this lesson we'll be drawing this dragon with graphite pencils. We'll be using the 300 GSM watercolour paper to draw on. This is a good choice because it gives you the option of adding watercolour later if you want. This reference image, the step guide and an alternative version of the dragon with its mouth open can be found through the link above. We'll be using pencils from the 12-piece graphite pencil set, an electric eraser and a hobby knife. First we need to create the construction lines, so I start with the first step, a smooth curve for the top of the head. Then a second for the bottom of the top area of the mouth. I can then lay in the construction lines for the crests. These first two will lie above the eyes. I then create a little hook at the end of the beak and then give the mouth a bit of shape. I add in the crest under the eye and then erase any unwanted construction lines. I lay in more crests and make sure they are spread out with a natural looking even spacing. I'll also mention at this stage I make sure the 5B pencil I use is fairly blunt. This way any of the line work is easily erased. I also have a clean large goat hair brush to remove any rubbings. I then add the horns and sharpen any line work. I have a close look and make any adjustments at this stage. I use a harder B pencil to define the construction lines and then use the electric eraser to clean up any soft edges and smudges from the paper. Once the construction stage is defined and we're all cleaned up, we can start to add the detail. I start with the teeth. As I lay these teeth in, I don't make them too uniform and equal. They are a conical shape and have a slight backward lean to them. As soon as the teeth are in, it starts to look dragonish. I can then position the eye. Obviously, dragons are mythological creatures, and apart from looking really cool, there are no real set rules on designing them. You usually see them with scales, and I like the idea of having differing types of scales over certain areas of the head. Like on the crests here, I imagine they would be super hard, like stone. So I create a stone wall look to them. I then redefine the top horn and add the skin folds around the eye. I also define any important areas by creating a thicker outline around them. Like around the crests, this just defines them more. It's important because when there is a lot of detail surrounding these areas, edges can be lost. I like the B pencil because it produces a dark line, but it's not that soft that it needs to be continually sharpened all the time. I then add the stone wall detail to the crests at the rear of the beast's head. On the rest of the head are fairly easy to lay on. They just have to be started from the left side and the adjoining scale can be drawn onto it so that it appears there is some overlap. I also make the scales differing sizes so that it doesn't look too consistent and follow the form of the head to an extent. The third set of scales we've used on our dragon are triangular scales that overlap. While these scales are easy to draw, they need to be in a certain systematic order to look correct. So it is necessary to create a set of construction lines down and across the neck following form, and a vertical line running down the neck to the head to use as a guide. This way the pattern is equal and balanced. The method is to position the point of the scale at the area where the horizontal line meets the vertical line. Carry the scales across horizontally, then place the next set of scales in between the previous scales. For the next set of scales, create the first scale at the point where the vertical line meets the horizontal line, and so on. Once all the scales are in, carefully remove the construction lines with the electric eraser and redefine the scales. The drawing is essentially done, so we can now start the shading to add shadow. I choose the light source coming in from the left and lay a shadow line on the right of each scale. I lay the shadow onto the bottom part of the eyebrow crest and do this with a series of lines. This is called hatching and use a 5H pencil to do this. I add more tone into the crests at the back of the head to reinforce that it's below the top part of the head, and continue to add tone until I feel I have the right amount of depth suggested. I make the hollow of the eye quite dark, as it would be in shadow from the eyebrow crest. It also draws the attention to the area, and any eye region is always a main focal point in an artwork. At this stage, I just work over the drawing, darkening here and there until I feel that the head shape is correct.